Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. It is Powell Day. Let's go. The market is up to, I guess you could say, a good start today. We have a lot of stocks in the green. The market overall is popping. Good old DraftKings is up like 7%, Tom. What else can you ask for in pre-market?
Yeah, this is actually really good. DraftKings is moving in a pretty good way, and I actually saw some pretty good news come out of a few companies. I saw that McDonald's plant-based Beyond Burger is doing pretty well, and it looks like Beyond Meat is also up this morning. I'm not sure how McDonald's is doing. They're a little bit too large maybe for that type of movement, but it might help Beyond Meat today. That's pretty good to see that their plant-based burger is doing good. And then I also saw some pretty good news on CNBC about Boeing, Mike. I know their earnings were, pretty bad here in the negative with their EPS, but, apparently they did have a pretty good article come out. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right here. You can see that they pretty much say that Boeing takes $3.5 billion charge on 787 Dreamliner, but generates positive cash flow for the first time since 2019. So even though their EPS was down that much, it's at least good to see them getting positive here.
True. So, yeah, I mean, Boeing is one of those stocks that's just been all over the place, so news can definitely help it out. I know it tried to run a couple weeks ago, but the market's craziness kind of just, I guess you can say prevented a full-on breakout, but it's looking decent this morning in pre-market. And Tom, I don't know if that's a glitch, but it looks like there could have been a couple prints like below 200. So it's good that it's holding that support.
Yeah, it really is. That's going to be a pretty big support there. And especially for like the past couple of days, it looks like right around like 198 has been like a pretty big level. So it looks like we did come down and touch that. I guess there's going to be a pretty big wall right around there.
Good stuff. So there we go. We have Vicky saying good morning. DraftKings upgraded to overweight at Morgan Stanley, $31 price target. So yeah, there we go. It's up 10.5% today, Tom. I love to see this upwards movement, but at the same time, it should have never really even gotten this low in my opinion. But either way, I'll definitely take this movement. It's been a while since we got to wake up and see DraftKings up 11.5%. There we go.
Yeah, this is awesome, and it broke above that pre-market high of $21. It's starting to really move, Mike. And, like you said, it's been a long time since we've seen this one have this type of movement. We can look at like a 90-day, 15-minute chart, and it's just been pretty much straight down forever. And I'm really hoping that we can start to recover back. There's a lot of resistances coming up, but especially like intraday today, if we could break out above like 2250, I would really like it. And even for like the next couple of weeks, I think it looks pretty good. And, anytime you have a big bank, like, who was it? Morgan Stanley. If you have a big bank like that, coming out and at least, keeping the performance somewhat good, then I think that it's always a pretty good upgrade. And I'm glad that they're running.
You know it. So, Tom, I don't know, like, if you've been watching this one at all, but I'm really looking to dip by LOGI for the long term. I've been looking at their fundamentals. They're a solid company. They are a competitor to Corsair. I still love Corsair. Logitech is just a little larger, though, which is totally fine. But I've been, like, really digging into some of their fundamentals and, like, they're a cash cow, and I feel like with everything that has happened in the world, in the sense of, like, I guess you can say working from home and just things like that, and like even like the gaming industry's rapid explosion, I feel like Logitech has just even more like room to grow, and I feel like at this level around $82, I really like it. I didn't really make a move yet. I'm probably going to make a video on it just about like their long-term fundamentals sometime soon, but I just figured I'd throw it out there because it's up 6% today and it's the second stock leading my watch list.
Yeah, it's a really big player. They're huge, and like you mentioned, they're even somewhat bigger than like a stock like Corsair. So it's really cool to see them like up like this. And honestly, their earnings yesterday were pretty good. I was reading into them. I know they took a bit of a dip there at market open, but the earnings were decent. Corsair's not really moving at all today, but yeah, it's nice to see Logitech up, Mike. And personally, I love this company. Like right now, I'm using a Logitech keyboard, a Logitech mouse. I have Logitech speakers, Logitech headsets. Like, it's pretty crazy. So I know that they're big, and I'm really hoping that the holidays really helped them out here. And, I'll have to go read back into the earnings for the holiday season, but I know the earnings were very good overall.
Yeah. And then, just think about it, Tom. Everything, like with, I guess you can say gaming, and I guess you can say like esports and things like that. Like Logitech has like a pretty good like market share of that, because like like whether you're playing Call of Duty or whatever game, like odds are like you're gonna need a mouse or a keyboard or headset or microphone or like anything. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like they even have more room for growth potential in that sense. And then like especially over the past 2 years with like the work from home explosion, like that should really help them out too. So anyways, I'll make a video dedicated to Logitech soon. But that is awesome. And looking at my watch list, Tom, like literally every single stock is in the green except for Boeing. So it's looking pretty good pre-Powell. Guys, we do have Powell speaking at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I guess you can say the rate decision comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So be ready right around 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's when the big news happens. Normally, Powell makes the market rise. But, of course, anything can happen, and it's going to be a volatile day.
Yeah, and they've been getting a lot more hawkish lately, especially Powell. So we'll have to see how they end up talking. But, with talks of raising rates and stuff, the market generally doesn't like that. So we'll have to see what he ends up saying exactly. But you're right, that statement before he speaks might even move the markets more than Powell today, because lately those statements have been proving to be pretty big. I know that the last time that the Fed meetings, even the minutes, I should say, even came out, that really made the market drop whenever we finally saw what they were talking about in there. But as far as like watch list stocks, Mike, I do have one stock in the red that's kind of surprising, and it's Clorox. Clorox has been a pretty slow and steady mover over the past few months, especially while a lot of these growth stocks have been falling off. And it looks like Clorox is actually down 3.97% today. Not looking too good on a day where, most of these stocks like DraftKings are up 10%. We even have Microsoft up almost 5% today. So it just sucks to see some of these value stocks dropping down. But hey, I guess if we start to see that transition into growth, I'll take the losses on these and take the wins on like DraftKings.
Exactly. Alrighty, so we have Sam saying good morning. Market looks good. Hopefully it holds up. You know it. We also have Matt saying morning, been laying low, got caught in a margin call. Sorry to hear that, but the good news is that there are still a lot of stocks at a lot of good levels, so that's always good to see. Sam said AMD is running. Let's take a look at AMD. Yeah, it's not looking bad. It's up 2.6%. It doesn't have like the same momentum that a lot of other stocks have right now, but still, it's not bad.
Yeah, I actually called this one out for my free day trade today, Mike. I pretty much had it. If we passed above 116, I would get calls. If we fall below 113.50, I'd buy puts. It looks like the puts might work out here. It's in a little bit of a range here in pre-market. We'll have to see which way it ends up breaking. But yeah, with a lot of the growth stocks in the green, I wouldn't be surprised if AMD maybe bounces off this bottom level and starts to turn back around. We'll just have to see how it ends up moving. It's kind of a crazy day, at least for the growth stocks. I don't know if AMD is going to be thrown in there or not, though.
Yeah. All right. And then we have Vicky saying Clorox downgraded today. Don't remember the target and firm. So let's see. Looks like Credit Suisse downgraded Clorox to underperform. Okay, so Credit Suisse downgraded them today, but over like the past week or 2 weeks, JP Morgan raised their price target to 157. Barclays raised their price target to 163. UBS adjusted the price target to 163. And then it looks like, I'm not getting a number on Credit Suisse, at least on Thinkorswim. But either way, downgrades aren't really a good thing. But stock's down 3.5%. I would say the main reason would be kind of just like in the same way that when we saw growth stocks getting absolutely destroyed, we saw Clorox and I guess you can say KMB and Coca-Cola running to the upside. Now that the growth stocks are kind of starting to run, it looks like, I guess you can say we see a little bit of a transition out of the value stocks.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still hoping that Clorox can still start to run here over the next few months. Like this stock has honestly been pretty beaten down on like the max daily chart, especially for a stock that sells so many consumer products as them. You would think that they'd be a little bit safer kind of like if you go look at like a Johnson and Johnson, they've been holding up a lot better. I would hope that Clorox can eventually maybe kind of become kind of like a Johnson and Johnson, but we'll have to see how it ends up going. Obviously they've been going down, and even Kraft Heinz, which we talked about a little bit as well, has also been down over the past like year and a half. So it's just kind of crazy to see some of these stocks down this low, but I really hope that inflation can help them start to rise. But as far as stocks back in the green, Mike, we even have some of these big EV companies, or I should say solar plays, like RUN, and then Enphase, and then even like XPEV up here, like up 3%.
Very interesting. Alrighty. There we go. I'm just trying to see what other movers we have in the market right now. It looks like Raymond's saying Baba's falling, Tom. So I will say that is a little bit of a shocker, because normally when you see like growth plays up, at least recently, you would see Baba also up. But it looks like Baba just got their price target cut by a couple different institutions. So that's never a good sign. It's down 0.8%, which does suck. It's still right around that like one. There's a little bit of support right around like 117.50, and then I would say the main one's right around 115.
Yeah, definitely. Those are going to be some huge supports to look at, especially intraday today. Like if we fall below 115, it'll probably look pretty scary here in the short term. We'll probably come back down and retest like 110. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I hope that we end up just holding. But yeah, I mean, I like Baba, Mike. It's just that the only problem is it's taking a long time to recover. Every time we feel like it's finally forming a good bottom and it might finally start filling these gaps back to the upside, it just gets utterly rejected again. And, I really hope it finally goes on a big uptrend eventually here.
Yep, I'm with you. Looking at the other, we have Jay Deep saying Boeing too. So it looks like Boeing's also taking a little bit of a hit. Like they had some mixed earnings, as Tom suggested in the beginning of the stream. Like EPS was brutal, but then again, like they did have some positives come out of their earnings report. But yeah, I mean, I've been watching Boeing, Tom. It's just like kind of like Baba in the sense that it's taking forever to recover, and that like every time it tries to get a breakout, it just gets rejected. So it's definitely on my watch list, and like I don't know, like I might play it, but just like this second, it's not like an A+ setup.
Yeah, and if we end up holding maybe on the chart, if we end up holding this bottom level around like 180, 185 to 186, I think it'll be pretty good. And we're actually sitting like right around the $200 support right now. We're actually just below it, but looking at it overall, like I'm definitely eyeing it up for a longer term position too, but I definitely feel what you mean. It's just been a long time since it's had some good movement. And even though it goes up sometimes, it might rise from 206 up to 234, which, that's a pretty good gain, especially if you're trading options. But just keep in mind though, like if you're buying shares for the long term, it's just been sitting here and doing almost nothing. And now that the EPS is -7 again, it's definitely not good to see. Like you said though, there was some positives, but I don't know, -7 EPS is not good. But then again though, we've seen them turn it around before from a -15 EPS to a -1 EPS in just one quarter. So, it could definitely turn around.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, and let's see. I mean, yeah, Tom, most of the stocks we're looking at are green today. Do you have any favorite setups or any setups you're watching, like depending on what Powell does?
Yeah, with Powell, I'm really looking at a lot of these bigger tech stocks, Mike, like Microsoft, Apple, AMD. I'm really eyeing these up, and I feel like they're all in kind of similar setups today. Like if we go look at Apple, they gapped up this morning, and they're just kind of consolidating. They're consolidating right below their 164 support. If we go look at Microsoft, same thing. I know they had those earnings yesterday and after hours, but same thing though. They popped up this morning. They're kind of just consolidating here right around this upper resistance. And as I'm looking at some of these stocks, like whenever Powell speaks, if he starts to talk about, rates rising maybe in March or something like that, and the market starts to dip, I'm really going to be looking at these major tech stocks, because if we see Microsoft start to fall, Apple start to fall, AMD fall, then I'm really going to maybe look at some puts here on the overall market. And I don't mean that I'm going to just, go all into puts right then or anything, but I'll definitely be eyeing up some hedges and stuff. Like if we see AMD break below this major support down here, it might start selling off back towards $100. And, if we see AMD do that, I'm sure Nvidia will be down, Apple will be down, and whenever they raise rates, it really hurts the valuations of these tech stocks. And, we've been seeing it get priced in for the past few months. So hopefully it's all priced in, but we'll have to see how the movement goes.
Exactly. That's the main thing. Like, everyone's been aware of what the Fed's plans are with rates, but it's like now all of a sudden everyone wants to panic. So, but then again, Tom, I guess you can say fear and panic are contagious. When you have the market down 10%, it definitely it causes like a snowball effect of selling pressure. So we shall see. We have Sam saying, what's an A-plus setup that you can see in the market? I would say there's like two of them. I would say DraftKings and Zoom. Does this mean that it's the bottom for DraftKings and Zoom? No, but like at the levels they're at, it's hard to go wrong with them. Zoom is a little bit safer in the sense that they are a more established company. DraftKings arguably has more growth potential. And then another one that I was looking at, Tom, is Square. Square is a really good company. Jack Dorsey just left Twitter for Square. Square has been growing at a crazy pace over the past couple years. The stock's back at 117. Square is a little bit interesting in my opinion in the sense that yes, it's oversold a lot, but it's not oversold to the extent that Zoom or DraftKings are oversold. So while I do like Square at this level, I wouldn't be surprised if we like retested like $100 again. I do like it for the long term. Solid company. They have a lot of big plans with like blockchain and cryptocurrency and things like that. And like I said, Jack Dorsey literally just left Twitter for Square, and that's a pretty big sign in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That is huge. And, I know Twitter has a lot of flack and, maybe like lawsuits and stuff like that from different situations. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see how he left the company for Square. Like, I never expected such a big name, like that's like, we're talking about like a CEO who's almost, I know Jack Dorsey's not an Elon Musk, but, he's considered up there, like with those guys like Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, he's one of those big players, and especially like whenever you consider Silicon Valley stocks, and whenever we look at stuff like Square, I really think that them getting into crypto is going to be huge, Mike. Like obviously Square, I believe they own Cash App, which
Yep.
I know you can already buy some cryptos on that, and whenever you look at some of these applications now for buying, trading crypto, and sending it to your friends even and stuff like that, it sounds like a pretty cool future for it. So I can't wait to see what ends up coming out. And you're right. I mean, he's just such a big player. You'd have to expect something big over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I feel like if any company were like is in a position to make, I guess you can say, Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency like everyday form of payment, I feel like Square would be one of the top companies for that. A lot of you might not even know Square, but like let's say you go to like a coffee shop and like you have that little like, how do you describe it, Tom? Like that little dashboard where you just like put your credit card in and pay. That's owned by Square. Like Tom said, they also own Cash App. So they have growth potential, and it's crazy because here, let me just pull up the sheet really quickly. So they are worth around $54 billion, and their revenue is still growing just at an insane pace year by year. So to put that into perspective, in 2018, in 2018, their revenue was around $3.2 billion. In 2019, it was $4.7 billion. And then in 2020, it was $9.5 billion. So it's like it's growing at a crazy pace. The 2021 data has not been released yet. They have earnings coming up very soon, so we'll know that once that earnings is released. But it's like they're still growing. Like I'm looking at their quarterly data, and it's like still higher than even 2020. So we know that actually this is crazy, Tom. So in 2020, Square's yearly revenue was $9.5 billion, all right? In the first 2 quarters of 2021, that passed all of 2020's revenue. So it's like we still have the third and fourth quarter too. So it's growing at a crazy pace. It's already a big company. Jack Dorsey is going pretty heavy with this one. Plus they had the crypto expansion. It's a pretty good play in my opinion. Is this the bottom? No one knows, but it's at a good level.
Yeah, and it's going to be hilarious to call them Block whenever they really finally change their name. Like that's going to be pretty interesting to say. I know I'm so used to seeing Square. I wonder if they're going to have to change their ticker or something. But
True.
yeah, I mean, you're right. The crypto industry is huge. And, I've been seeing a lot of news lately about crypto and everything like that being more integrated into society. And Mike, I actually have a very interesting article about Elon Musk yesterday. I'm sure you saw this, Mike, but guys, let me know in the chat how you feel about this. Elon Musk says that he tempts McDonald's to accept Dogecoin, and McDonald's replied to him and said only if Tesla accepts Grimace Coin. It's just pretty funny to see Elon saying this. He actually got on Twitter saying, "I will eat a Happy Meal on TV if McDonald's accepts Dogecoin." So pretty interesting, and we're talking about crypto with Square and Block here. It's so interesting to see how a lot of these companies are like Elon, for example, is trying to tempt such a large institution like McDonald's to start accepting some cryptos as payment. That would be huge, actually, if some of these big companies did that. And, that would make a pretty big difference. So, kudos to Elon for trying to push the envelope here, but just very interesting to see them kind of, push back at each other.
That's hilarious. I did not even see that until you pointed it out, but oh my, that is funny. Like, I would have never have expected that, but wow.
Yeah, I don't know if Elon even, sometimes those rich guys, they never even eat McDonald's. So
Yeah.
that'd be pretty funny to see him eat some. I'd get a kick out of it.
Gosh, that is funny. Alrighty. We have Vicky saying, I read an article that buying Square now is like buying JP Morgan in 1871. I hope so. Yeah, so thank you all for joining. If you guys like the stream, it would really help us out if you could hit that like button. If not, it's alright too, but we'd really appreciate it, and it helps grow the channel. Hunter says he doesn't want to call Square Block, Tom. What do you think about that?
I don't either. I don't think I do either. It doesn't sound the best in my opinion, but I think Square has a better ring, but I don't know. I guess it makes sense because it's like the blockchain, so
Yeah.
I guess that's why.
Yep, exactly. Alrighty. What else do we have moving, Tom? So I know you're looking at the market. How's it looking?
Yeah, it's honestly holding up very, very well today. We had a pretty good pre-market, especially with the way Microsoft rose yesterday. In after hours, like the SPY was dipping down with Microsoft in a pretty big way. We can see that Microsoft was down, SPY was down, and then as Microsoft recovered, the SPY came right back up, which was great to see. We're all the way back actually up above 440 now, which is a pretty big resistance. So I'm glad that we broke that and we're holding the ground here. I'm not sure that we're going to have too much movement though ahead of Powell speaking today, Mike. Like honestly, the SPY seems like it's setting up in a little bit of a bullish way to me, especially if we could break out above like 442 here. I would definitely entertain like an intraday trade to the upside, but keep in mind Powell's speaking later, and if the SPY might go flat. Sometimes it just flatlines until he starts speaking or until the statement comes out.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of times it just flatlines because there's just there's just uncertainty. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like just investors don't really take too big of a risk right before Powell's about to speak. So we will see. Then we have Aloha saying, what do you think of Tesla today? It's kind of like or at least what I think about the SPY. Like, yes, it's up 3%, but it's like I'm not expecting a 12% up day before Powell. Can it happen? Yeah, it's possible, but it's just historically we don't really see that. So I'm just expecting consolidation until Powell. It's not really worth a day trade right now, in my opinion, unless some sort of catalyst comes out or unless it has true momentum. Right now, it's just not moving, and if you trade options when a stock's not moving, the option will just decay at a crazy pace. So you don't want to do that. If you are looking for some day trades, I will say CVS is running up, and I guess you can say VIX is falling. But besides that, I mean, Tom, what are you thinking of Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Tesla today personally. I think it's having some pretty good movement, especially, I'm not going to say compared to most growth stocks because growth stocks are doing pretty good, but especially I feel like it's moving pretty good compared to Apple and Microsoft and stocks like that. Like Apple is also kind of dipping down just like Tesla. And I feel like it's just kind of just following along with some of these bigger tech stocks. And, they're probably moving in sympathy with each other because of everything going on with rates and everything. We've been seeing a lot of these sectors all moving together lately. And generally that does happen when the market gets pretty volatile. So I could see it just probably following along with Apple and Microsoft, but I'm with you. I'll definitely expect it to be more flat before he speaks. And like if Powell speaks and then the market starts exploding, Tesla will probably come up and break this awesome 960 resistance. And at the same time, though, if the market tanks, Tesla's probably going to really fall below the 920 support in a major way. So I would personally just wait till he spoke. And like we've said, though, it'll probably just go flat.
Yep. All right, we have Jerry in a Tesla call, Tom. You know what that means? Tesla's about to be up like 10%.
Man, I really hope so. I mean, he's been on fire.
Yeah, there we go, Jerry. So yeah, hopefully that pops for you. Hopefully Powell just makes the market explode. But we have Aloha saying high expectations on earnings for Tesla. So yeah, that's another thing too with earnings. Like, how about whenever you get it? Yeah, perfect. So we can see that we have a lot of big earnings to end the week. Tesla, LVS, Intel, Robinhood, Apple, McDonald's. So that'll be interesting. And Tom, I know we've been talking about earnings like all week long in the daily videos, but I'll say it again. Like, I'm really curious to see how Robinhood reports. Like, I know it's been a wild quarter for just trading and in the stock market and the cryptocurrency market, and they make most of their money from payment for order flow. So the more trades they have on their platform, the better for them. And I'm curious, one, to see how the most recent quarter was, but then two, how the market reacts to it.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be awesome to see. I mean, I think Robinhood should probably come in with some better numbers. As far as volatility goes, at least you would think that they would come in with a bit of an uptick here. They might not do good with their revenue or with their EPS, but hopefully that order flow is bringing them some pretty good cash flow here, at least in the shorter term. And they've honestly been turning around the past couple of days. Like, they're up 2% today. They kind of look like they're moving like a Tesla or something like that today, but I will say I like the way it's popping up, and maybe we'll see a bit of a pre-earnings run-up if Powell says something good today. That might really help Robinhood, and who knows, if the market ends up going down, it might even help them that way. Like you said, whenever there's increased volatility, whether it's the upside or the downside, Robinhood stands to benefit from that. And, we saw them really explode with GameStop's crazy movement and AMC's crazy movement. And we're just really hoping that the market can just get some type of volatility back to just really help Robinhood. Because, man, I mean, I cannot believe I was saying they were almost at $11 a couple days ago. Like, that was even crazy just to say.
Yeah, 100%. So let's see. I'm just looking at some of these comments really quickly. It looks like Carlos said, I love the market going down to dollar cost average on my longs. Now I need it to start going sideways or up. I ran out of money. Do you guys think we bottomed? I would say so. Of course, nobody knows the bottom, but it's just like part of like how low are some of these stocks going to go. Like, yes, if we look at Robinhood right now, it's just like a random example. Like, the stock went from 85 down to 13. DraftKings went from 74 down to 21. Zoom went down from, let me pull up a longer term chart. Give me 1 second. Zoom went down from 588 down to 149. We have AI that went from, let me pull it up. AI went from 184 down to $22.50. And I can go through literally probably 50 or 100 good stocks that have a similar setup. So it's like part of it's like they can only fall so low if they're a solid company. Zoom is as a perfect example. Zoom is reporting amazing fundamental numbers, yet their stock still falls basically every day, right? So it's a matter of like you can only fall so much, especially if your fundamentals are good. Like, if you're just losing $10 billion a year and then you've been in business for 50 years and you still can't turn a profit, then yeah, you can go bankrupt. But like when you're reporting good fundamentals, your stock's going to rise. It's just inevitable. So I would say we're pretty close to the bottom, but of course it's a shot in the dark. No one knows the bottom. And I would say what Powell says in other, I guess you can say, market catalysts will have a very large effect on just movement over the short term.
Yeah, I think it will too. And look at DraftKings today, breaking that high of day, up 13% as they had some good news finally come across today. And I feel like that's something that Zoom also needs. They just finally need some more good news. Like we've just been seeing bad outlook after bad outlook, and it's just making these stocks go down. And I really hope to finally see them come in maybe on their next earnings report, maybe come out and say that their outlook for the future is pretty good. Maybe they'll say that the reopening phase is finally over, and now they're finally gonna like flatline as far as like revenue and everything, so they can finally get established here. I just can't wait to see what they finally talk about. But I'm really hoping for a turnaround as well. And I really want to compare them to DraftKings right now, Mike, because look at this. DraftKings got some good news, and they instantly popped from lows of like 17.41. Now they're sitting all the way up at 21.80, almost $22 at this point. I mean, that's almost like a 5-point move off that low of $17. Like, that's a lot more than people expect, actually. They're up 13% today off of just a couple pieces of good news. So just wait till Zoom, like whenever these stocks start turning around, they'll turn around pretty quickly, and it's easy to miss the boat. Like we've seen it happen before. We actually just had it happen like on EA, Mike, wasn't it? EA had a huge dip down. We were going to really dip by him on this dip, and then they came right back up, and we missed that boat there on that dip. And, these recoveries, they can happen really quickly sometimes.
Exactly, and I think it was with Activision, because I've been meaning to buy the dip on that one more, and then the next thing I know, Microsoft kind of bought the dip.
Yeah, this was one too, but it was definitely EA a while ago.
Gotcha.
Whenever they had this one dip, this was even like before all the Activision stuff though.
Gotcha.
So it was a little bit different, but definitely though, Activision's another one too though. I mean, definitely, we were definitely eyeing this one up. They had lots of gaps to fill to the upside on the daily chart as well, and it was setting up a lot. And this one, like you pointed out, this one makes me even more sad than EA made me that I missed the boat on this one, because Activision was just on fire there.
True. Alrighty, so let's see. We have a couple other comments. Where is it? Let's see. Aloha said Ukraine is in play too, so maybe more downside even if Powell brings up the market. Yeah, it's possible. It just it depends on what happens. Like there's a lot of uncertainties in the market and the world right now, and a lot of different, I guess you can say, aspects. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a potential situation to monitor because we don't know what's going to happen with that, and it can definitely affect the market. So great information there. Vicky said this may not be the bottom, but prices and valuations are really, really cheap. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. We have Sam saying Intel doing well. Let's take a look, Tom. I know you've been following Intel lately, and they're up a good amount today for a company like Intel, and they have earnings right after close.
Yeah, they're actually doing pretty good, and it's a very strange company lately. They've been up and down so much the past couple years that they've been getting hit by competitors like AMD and Nvidia, and they are running up ahead of earnings. It's nice to see them running, but it does worry me with their earnings coming out. I have some shares of Intel. I like them for the long term. It's just that for the next 6 months, they're just questionable. They've had so much competition with Nvidia and AMD, and they've had so many delays with all these chip issues and production problems and stuff like that. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with them. But I like the movement today, and I really hope the earnings go well. I almost de-risked myself, Mike, and got rid of my shares before earnings just to de-risk myself a little bit, but I went ahead and held them, so we'll have to see how the earnings ends up going. Hopefully they don't pull a Netflix and end up down 20% or something.
I don't think that'll happen, but
yeah,
I think you'll be good.
I hope not either, especially in the chip sector.
Yeah, and in the worst case scenario, it's maybe you buy a couple puts just to hedge, but I think you'll be good. I mean, does that mean earnings are going to pop today? No, but I doubt we're going to see anything like a Netflix, but the market always surprises everyone, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I will say there was one setup I did want to show really quick with Intel here. I'm going to go ahead and draw it out on the chart. Just go ahead and circle the old setup so that we can kind of see what I'm kind of looking at here. So I'm going to circle a time in the past where I feel like Intel is having very similar movement right now as it did in the past in the other white circle here. So we can see Intel had a huge gap down, and then it moved right back up, filled the gap, and then had another dip back down, retested that support, and then exploded back to the upside. It kind of looks like it's doing the same thing. It had a big gap down, filled the gap, had another dip back down towards support. Now the question is it going to recover back up? Now with earnings, we might see a big recovery back up like this, but I'm just pointing it out that that's the type of setup I'm seeing. Do these setups always work out? No, but I felt like it was at least worth it for me to hold my shares with at least the potential of it happening.
For sure. Alrighty, so Tom, let's check back in on good old DraftKings, up almost 15% today. Love to see this, Tom. It's like it's been so long. It's been so long since a nice green day. It's like it's very relieving to look at DraftKings and not see red.
Yeah, it
So,
really is, man. This stock's we've been seeing like -7%, -5%. I feel like every day for the past 6 months. So I'm really happy to see it as well. We're up 14%. It's insane. I can't believe we're back up above $22. I never thought we'd have a gap up like this morning. And, it's pretty good to see that they had some of these upgrades. I've been seeing actually them get some downgrades lately. Like, I'm not saying today, but over the past few weeks, I have seen a little bit of downgrades coming DraftKings way. So I'm glad to see that Morgan Stanley came in here with this clutch move with the upgrade finally.
it's just a matter of time. It's like stocks can only go so low if if they have true growth potential and if their fundamentals are good. DraftKings is more of a growth play. It's not like in the fundamental position that Zoom is, but still, it's like the stock can only go so low. It's like it went from 74 down to 17. It's like, come on, it's like that's just excessive. But either way, it's good to see this movement. Russell said he sold his DraftKings calls for a loss yesterday. It's okay. If you want to grab shares, that would be safer. Calls are tough right now in the sense that implied volatility is pretty high. So maybe it's even though the timing wasn't the best. Like if you believe in the company, shares will be better anyways, just tax wise. So if you just buy and hold, that'll be good. But yeah. So I'm just going to take this time to personally thank everyone for joining the stream. So we really appreciate all of you guys joining. We have a big day ahead of us with Powell. The market's doing pretty good so far. So far, so good. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, George, Hunter, Sam, Kathy, I'm Fierce, Vicky, Matt, Alex, Raymond, J Deep, Wagner, Tap, Hunter, Aloha, Jerry, Carlos, Neighbor Jay, and Carol and Russell. Thank you guys so much for joining today. Tom, we have Vicky asking for some levels on CRWD.
Yeah, CRWD. I actually have some pretty good levels here for this one. There's actually a pretty big resistance here, right around $170 even. I would definitely eye that up as a good resistance level to the upside. And then to the downside, there's a pretty big support at 155. And then below 155, I definitely see 150 after that. And if we do break out above 170 today, after that, I'm seeing 175. It looks like this one's moving in like $5 increments here. But either way, I like the movement out of this one, Mike. CrowdStrike's been at a pretty good level to buy, I think, for the longer term. And they're bouncing off that major support at 150. This will be another one I eye up for shares, especially with them being in that, what is it, the cybersecurity sector, I guess you could say?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's at a good level, Tom. It's right around that, what would you say, like 150 support. So, it's at a good level, decent volumes coming in. It's been doing very well over the past couple years. I just want to take a quick look at their fundamentals really quickly. But yeah, I mean, the stock's been doing very well over the past couple years. I'm loading up their fundamentals right now. But yeah, I mean, they have been growing at a crazy pace, Tom. So in 2017, they had revenue of $53 million. In 2021, their revenue was $874 million. Last year, or in 2020, their revenue was $481 million. So it's like they're even growing at like a crazy pace year over year. Like, even though they're already putting up so much in revenue. So Tom, you beat me to it. Look at that quarterly revenue too. It's like every quarter it's just better and better and better and better. So that's awesome. I mean, their growth is just explosive and it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, they're like a $38 billion company. They have a price to sales ratio of around 29, which is high. So that is a concern. There's definitely a concern with that. Their free cash flow just went to the positive, which is or I guess it was slightly positive in 2020 as well. But their free cash flow is going up there, which is good to see. My concern is just this price to sales ratio at 29. That is pretty high. But then again, when you have your revenue that went from 53 million up to 874 million in 4 years, it's like you have to pay for growth. So it's like I understand why it's high. Yeah, I mean, it's growing, Tom.
Yeah, that's really good growth, actually. I'm really happy to see that they've had this type of numbers, and especially quarterly, because they've been going down the past few quarters. I was maybe expecting to see a little bit of a decline here, but yeah, it really is staying steady. It looks very nice, especially on the chart here, and even on the stock chart itself. I think it's at a great level. This 150 support should be pretty good for the long term. Like we have CrowdStrike bouncing at their 150 support, which held up huge over the past couple of years. Then we have DraftKings bouncing off their all-time low, like their IPO price. We have Zoom bouncing at a huge support around 140 to 150 down here, where you can see they had tons of movement before too. And so many stocks are at these major support levels, and if we start to see major moves off these bottoms, I mean, we're going to see some pretty crazy moves to the upside.
No doubt. Alrighty, and let's see. We have Sam saying just made 12% on AMD calls. Let's go, Sam. Love to hear that. We have Ravi saying, I sold puts on Roblox for the February 18th 85 strike, currently on 100% loss. Should I book loss on today's rally or wait till expiration? So I really think you should roll your position. This is what I always do, or for the most part, it's what I always do when I have short puts that are losing. What you can do is, this is a pretty cool trick. So you have the February 18th expiration 85 strike. So what you can do is you have the February expiration 85 strike. You can buy those for a loss right now. And at the same time, like you want to do this at the same exact time, you would order it as a spread. You want to sell to open maybe, let's say the March 18th 85 strike puts. So you would sell to open the 85 strike puts for March 18th, and you would buy to close the 85 strike puts for February 18th. By doing this, you're essentially in the same trade. You're giving yourself more time. And for doing this, you will pick up around $160 extra. It's called rolling your position. So only do this if you fully understand it. And if you have questions, feel free to just let us know. But IV is really high right now, and you can use that to your advantage. You would only want to do this if you're comfortable if you think at some point Roblox will be above $85. If you do, and you just need more time for it to work out, you can just close your current expiration and sell to open the March expiration 85 strike put, or even if you want to go out to April. But it's a really cool trick. It can really be a lifesaver in a lot of times. So definitely consider that.
Yeah, really consider. And if you need help, just join the Discord and definitely get in there. I don't remember who asked the question. I'm sure they're already in the Discord. But yeah, definitely just let us know if you need help. And I will say Roblox is in a pretty good position right now for the long term. Like we said, I'm not sure it's going to get back above 85, but we got to keep in mind there is some pretty big players in Roblox that have entered lately. Like Nancy Pelosi is one of them, and she recently made some pretty good longer term positions here. And I feel like that getting maybe some calls down here, or I shouldn't say calls, I should say leaps, should be a pretty good way to go. If you get some options that expire in maybe 6 months to a year, I think that'll be awesome, especially with the way Roblox is bouncing once again off that all-time low. Like they had their all-time low at $60.50. They honestly got really close to that a couple days ago before we bounced right back. So once again, another crucial support level that we're seeing a big bounce off of.
So Tom, I'm going to slightly disagree with you on this one. So I completely agree in terms of movement, but I think there would be a smarter way to play it. And instead of calls, and this is just speaking for myself, you see how implied volatility is sky high. It's at 107%, and a couple months ago it was at 50%, right? And basically all companies are like this right now, whether you're looking at DraftKings or Square or whatever, right? A lot of them have high implied volatilities. But the problem with the high implied volatility on Roblox is let's say you went out to the January 20th of 2023 expiration. The higher implied volatility goes, the more it affects longer term options, which isn't a good thing if you're buying them. So it's let's say you were to buy the 70 strike calls right now, you'll pay around almost 2 grand for them. So that means your break even would be around 90. So personally, I think shares would be better here. Calls can be good. It's just you need like an extra $20 movement in stock price just to break even.
Yeah, but that's only if you hold till expiration, though.
True. That is true. So are
You
you
know, like
looking
obviously, you would close like way before expiration, probably.
right? But like what are you looking at? Like maybe like get leaps now and then close in like a couple months, or what are you figuring?
Yeah, like I would say, like, you get leaps now. It's January 26th, maybe for like you said, next January. Maybe if over the next 6 months Roblox comes up, fills this gap, maybe fills it up to like 95 or maybe $100. I think that'd be a pretty good move. And I'm not saying that options is the smartest way to go. I'd rather get shares as well, but not everyone can afford the shares all the time. So sometimes people have to get options, I feel like, but I'm definitely with you. The shares are going to be a lot safer, especially with that IV like that. But I'm just saying, as far as like following some good, some big players here, like I feel like following Nancy Pelosi and stuff like that right now wouldn't be too bad. I know a lot of people have been buying calls on like Zoom, ChargePoint, stocks like that, and they just continue to go down. And I feel like right now is the time to buy, at least compared to the past 3 months or so.
Oh, I completely agree with you on direction, 100%. But I'm definitely gonna stick with the shares versus call thing. And like in other scenarios, you can like kind of like work with it because the stock price is cheaper. But with Roblox, it's $67, so it's like if you want to get any quality leap, you're gonna at least want to go at the money or in the money. And the cheapest like at the money leap is around like $2,000. So it's like a matter of like if you can have $2,000 in a leap, or you can have $2,000 in the shares. And if you're maybe targeting 90 or 100, like I still feel like shares would give you that better return relative to risk. But I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, let's see like how many shares like you could get for like $2,000 here. So we'll take like 2,000 divided by, we'll just say you get it at 67 to make it simple. But so you can get like 29 shares, or yeah, we'll just make it simple, 30 shares just to make it nice and easy there. So we'll just do 30 shares. Then let's say we rise from 67 up to 90. So we'll rise like what is that, like a 23-point move?
Yeah.
So we'll do 30 times let's see, 30 times 23. So you'd make like $690. Yeah, that's actually not too bad, if you compare that to, risking all of that on options, and you have a huge chance to possibly lose half of that. So I think that's definitely a better way to go, actually.
Yeah. And like the good thing with the shares too is like, let's say in the worst case scenario, Roblox continues to fall. It's like, at least you have some flexibility in the sense that, you can just hold it for the long term and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see for sure. Looking at some of these other questions, we have Sam saying Tesla will have amazing numbers today, but let's see its outlook. But I don't think they go into that until their yearly report. Gotcha. So yeah, hopefully it pops up. My question is, Sam, just like you said, it's like, even if they report great earnings, how is the market gonna respond to that? Like I know, Tom, right when we recorded yesterday's video, of course Microsoft is like getting destroyed, and then like an hour or two later it's just skyrocketing like right after we recorded. So they came out with some good outlooks. So Tesla can do something similar.
Yeah, they really could. And of course Microsoft turned around on us. It seems like every time we record, Mike, and there's a crazy earnings move like to the downside, that over the next couple hours before the video releases, that the thing pops right back up. Like you mentioned, it seems like it happens every time without fail, like you said. So it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Tesla doing something like that too. And personally, I'm a little bit worried about Tesla here. Like looking at it on the daily chart, it's just not setting up the best to me, at least on the daily. I like the intraday setup a lot more, but whenever I look at this on the daily, Mike, what I'm getting worried about personally is a bit of like a dead cat bounce here. Like we had a huge green candle bounce off that support just below 900, and then we've had a couple green days of consolidation, but they haven't really been that explosive, and I just have a bad feeling that this one might fall off. We finally just broke this trend, and if we see Powell move the markets down, like it's probably going to start selling off in a major way. So yeah. I'd be careful with it, but it's going to be so hard to play these earnings. Everybody, of course, probably wants Tesla to go up, but in the end, we have to keep in mind they've been having like production issues and stuff like that over the past few months. But then again, Tesla's apparently been one of the ones that have been innovating so that these production issues haven't hurt them as much. But like we said, there's just so much that go into earnings. We'll have to see what they end up saying. And it seems like lately, Mike, the outlooks are more important than the actual numbers themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, like even with like all of the crazy shortages and stuff, I know Tesla has been like holding up better compared to a lot of their competitors. So that's always good to see. But Tom, do you have any last minute plays before we wrap up the stream?
Man, today there was just so many good intraday moves. Like we had Tesla up, we have DraftKings to the upside, ChargePoint having some crazy moves. It's awesome. We even have good old Nvidia up 5% now. Like we don't usually see Nvidia up this much sometimes, but that pre-market move was pretty good here, and it's holding the 230 support. Personally, like a lot of these stocks are setting up pretty well, in my opinion, Mike, for intraday plays to the upside, especially if they can break above some pretty key levels. But the only problem is obviously Powell speaking is going to really make the market go crazy. So if stocks are going up right now, the second he starts speaking, they could just end up tanking down. So personally, I would probably recommend, taking a bit of a break maybe for the next couple of hours, guys, until the statement comes out or until he speaks, because the volatility might start to slow down a little bit too, and we might see stocks start to go flat, kind of like what we talked about in the beginning of the episode. So personally, I think I'll probably just take a little bit of a break today, not trade too much until he speaks, but I'll definitely be eyeing up some of these big plays like DraftKings and even Tesla, of course, with their earnings. But DraftKings is up 13%, Mike. Like, what a good day. I'm so happy to say that.
There we go. Awesome stuff. I don't know if Cornish is on the stream, but George said that Workhorse is up 10%, Tom. Donkey Horse up 10%. Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh, we're at $3.
Oh my gosh, we're at $3. Gosh. And then we have Johnny saying, I have protective puts on Unity and AMD currently at the money. Should I close or wait a few days? So it really depends on your expiration and how confident you are in what will happen with the market overall. So you said you have protective puts. So that means you have either like a share position or a leap position. So it's like I would wait until after Powell. Because let's say in the worst case scenario, let's say Powell says something horrible and the market just gets destroyed. So it's like if you just wait like maybe like a couple hours, and as long as you feel confident that your stocks are not going to go significantly lower, you're good to close the puts. But if you are looking to, I guess you can say, keep those hedges in place, and you are concerned about what might happen with, the market with Powell or Ukraine or anything, then you'll want to keep them. But another thing is that expiration too. So like, let's say they expire next week, then that's a completely different story. Okay, so he said February expiration, so that's good. So he has some time, but then again, we're getting to that like 23 calendar day mark, so IV is going to be like very exponential during that period. So I don't know, you're at the money, which is really good. I would really just reevaluate after Powell. If you're confident that the market's not going to get destroyed, then you should be good to close them. So
yeah, I think so too, and especially like with the way the market's going right now, I feel like closing it's going to be tough to do it before Powell, in my opinion. But, if we see Powell speak and the market starts to fly up, I would definitely close it personally. But like Mike said, it definitely depends on those expirations and your longer term positions too. But I feel like having a put in place for Powell is not the end of the world. But just keep in mind, don't over leverage on it. I don't know how many puts you have or how expensive yours was, but I will say just don't overdo it, because if the market does rise, those puts could lose value very, very quickly with the way the market moves after he speaks. So just definitely be careful with it.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys so much for joining. Mike said good morning, everyone. Thanks, Mike and Tom, for keeping us calm and rational. Happy that DraftKings is up today. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for joining. Don't forget, we have a huge end to the day with Powell. You'll want to definitely be ready around 2 p.m. Eastern time today. That's when the first, I guess you can say, statement is released, and then Powell speaks 30 minutes after that. But be ready for a volatile day. Thank you guys so much for joining, and have an amazing rest of your day.